Okay, good morning, good afternoon, or good night, wherever you're at. So I think circle graphs, this is the last part that we're going to be looking at. Circle graphs are a little bit different than the other graphs other than shape in that they always are referenced by a percentage of the whole, okay? So you're going to need you're going to need three things. You're going to be using your calculator for this because because of part two, you're going to have to calculate between actual numbers and percents to actual numbers, okay? The other thing that you're going to need is you're going to need a protractor, and protractors are those half circle things. If you don't get one in your package, you should get like at least a paper one in your package, or you can use that. But my suggestion is that you get yourself a plastic one that you can see through, because that makes it so much easier to use, okay? Let's start by looking at the example one. This is on page 109, and this is what it looks like. Oh no, you can't see that because I need to share my screen first. There we go, and this is what it looks like. So, just setting myself up here. So here we have the first. I'm going to probably do most of my work right on this part of the page. So really and truly, what you want to do is you're looking at this diagram here, and you see that one of the things that you want to make a note of is this number right here, 350 people. So that is the total number that were polled. Okay, so really and truly, this part of the chapter, or this part of the unit rather, is really about interpreting the graph as it is. So all you're going to be asked to interpret really is how many people of each, how many people used each one of these transportation methods. Now, one of the things that you want to remember is that when we're talking about percentages, another way of writing percentages is in the decimal equivalent, which basically you take any one of these numbers and you divide by 100, and that's the decimal equivalent. So for example, let's look at the car one. It says 61%. So 61% is really 0.61. How many people were take car alone? Like car alone, they're the only one in the car, right? You multiply that by the total. By 350. Dummy me. I just told you I needed a calculator, so I got to get my calculator. And turn it on. So 0.61 times 350 is equal to 213. It comes out to 213.5. Now, this is kind of ironic because can you actually have a 0.5 of a person? I don't think so. So what the normal thing to do is is you round to the nearest whole number. So this would be, best be reported as 214. Okay, so the rest of this example, going on to the next page, page 110, is doing the same. You're just doing a whole bunch of them. And then they say, okay, once you have generated these numbers, then you can actually compare how many people, more or less, used a certain transportation method. So let me just stop sharing this, and we'll go and I'll show you what, or you can turn the page, and if you look down the page, you'll see that some of the questions. So for example, right down to C, you've given all these different things about different types of questions. So B says you will need to consider people who drive low and also those who carpool. So if you wanted to have the total number that come by car, period, whether they carpool or not, then the easiest way is to combine the 2% and then multiply that by 350. And so that's what they've done here. So you say 0.61 plus, oh geez, that did it again. There it is. So 0.61 plus 0.09 is equal to 0.70 multiplied by 350, 245. Okay. Then it asks you another question on the previous page. I'm not going to flip back and forth. It says, what percentage of people blah, 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 walk to work? First one, car. And so they're asking you to compare public transport with other modes of transportation. So my suggestion, before you do any of these problems, is to calculate the numbers before you do any of the questions. I mean, don't even look at the questions, okay? Because then you'll find yourself that you end up having to go back and forth. So if I was, one page. I need to share this, right? Share screen. Okay, so to minimize, disappeared again. What I would do is, in this space here, for example, I would write out all of the different percentage in decimal. So I would go 0.61. I'm going to continue just with how it's going to look like, times 350. You'll find this saves time too. And so you come up with that number. Public transport is 0.22. And again, you're just going to multiply that by 350. Carpool. Oh, this is hard because it's so close. I think they said that carpool was the 9%. So that's going to be 0.09. And again, times 350. Bike, 0.05. 5 times 350, and walk 0.03, dot. And so once you get all these numbers, then all those questions that any question that can be asked of you, you can answer those just using sums or differences of these numbers, depending on what the question is. And that's it. Simple. But I really strongly suggest, like I did this last year, and for me, it was like, I think I tried it once without doing this grid, and it turned out that it kept getting me confused. I was getting confused easily. But if I just did this in a grid, and it becomes mechanical, that's the thing. It becomes mechanical. You almost don't even have to think. You just plug in the numbers, you derive the answers, and then you look at the question and say, oh yeah, well that's easy. That's this number minus this number. Okay, I get that. Oh, it's this one plus this one plus this one minus this one. Okay, I can do that too. And so that's my suggestion. Anyway, so I'm going to get you to sign off. And you are up for questions on page 111 to questions 112, questions numbers 1 to 3. So please do that, and then come back to me, and we will continue on. Cool. Thank you. See you in a bit. All righty. I'm not even ready for you. Okay, here we are. Now, this part is, we're on page 115. And in this part here, we are looking at the drawing part. And this is where you're going to need a protractor. Now, sorry, I don't have a protractor with me. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry, I lied. Not that far. We're at 113. Yeah, I'm on the wrong page. This 113? No, I'm on the right page. What do you know? Okay. As I said, my bad. I don't have a protractor at home. So I'll kind of try to show you an example. But here we have a grid of, or a table of data. So when you're given a table of data, I like the way they've done this, in that they've given you a lot of room within each one of the squares. So my suggestion is that when you do something like this, you start by adding all these values up across the page, and so you get with the total. And in this case, if you add them up, this comes up to 200. Okay. Now, I don't know if you will be always able to do this, but if you wanted to generate the percentages right away, what you do is you just, in this space here, for example, you divide each one of these by 200. So divide by 200. $200. $200. $200. And 200. Now, when you do that, that's going to give you the decimal equivalent, which is really helpful, okay? Because you're going to use that to calculate the degrees, okay? So for example, 75 divided by 200 is 0. 0.375. Okay. 20 divided by 200 is 0.1. 5 divided by 200, 0. I can't see that dot, can you? 0.025. 0.75 divided by is, oh, it's the same as this one. That's easy. 0.375. 10 is going to be 0.05. And 15 is going to be 0.075. And you can figure that out if you just look down the page even. Now, the next step you're going to do is, because a circle, if you guys will remember this from previous math, is that there are 300, if this is a circle, I'm dividing into quadrants. If you were to start here, call this 0, then around at right angles, that's 90 degrees. Straight across is 180. Like if I'm going in this direction, okay? Going this direction, 90, 180, 270, and all the way back around. This is the equivalent of 360 degrees. So every circle has 360 degrees. So in order to find out how many degrees in your diagram you need to draw, you simply take these numbers here and you multiply them. I'm going to change my color here. You multiply them, each one of them, by 360. Okay, so what that does, 360, you can see, is the equivalent of 135 degrees. It's quite a chunk. 135, and this guy's the same, so I'm going to just do him already. But see how cool this is? If you do this, you can do this all in one, like you lay it out in an organized fashion, and you just crank it through, just crank the thing through, and then you can actually draw the diagram. Okay, so next one here, 0.1 times 360, same as 36. This is 9 degrees, 18 and 27. Now, a valuable check is if you add all of these up, you should get 360 degrees. You should, okay, and you actually will. So once you do all that, then you can actually go ahead and draw. So this is what it looks like in the end. Okay. Now, for your work today, for the rest of this, then you need to do exactly the same thing. Why am I? Oh, that's because it's carried on. So for the rest of today, very short day, very short day. I'm starting to sound like Donald Trump. Very short, very short. Okay. You need to complete questions 4 on page 115, 5 and 6 on what's this called, 116, and you're done. Happy days, okay? Now, I suggest you set it up exactly like before, like we did. On the top, if you just look at your top, I don't want to change my page. Actually, I'll get rid of this. I don't need this anymore. If you look at the top of page 115, it gives you a lot of space there. It's 39 dogs, 44 cats, and 21 rodents. My suggestion is just like we did, go across the page, like for you to go across, no, other way. Add all of those up and then equal it to how many total pets you are, okay? Then you take that number and you divide each one of the pets by that number, and that will give you your percent, and then you're on your way, okay? Just complete the rest of it. And there is one little hook in this, okay? On page 116, it asks you to display the data on one other type of suitable graph, okay? Now, because you're dealing, this is, you have to ask yourself, what kind of graph could I use to signify discrete numbers? Okay, that's the kind of graph you want to use. And so now what you have to do is you have to translate. I suggest you do not translate. You can, yeah, my suggestion is use the raw numbers, just like we did before. Do the raw numbers for each one, okay? That'll make it easier. And then that's it for that unit. And then the rest of the homework is page 117 and 118. 3 easy questions. Will take you maybe a little bit of time, but if you lay them out exactly as I said, then you'll be fine. Also, I don't think I've said this before, but sometimes it's easier to use scrap paper, do it on a loose leaf because you have more room to play with. And for me, it's actually easier to do it on loose leaf because I tend to use a lot of paper anyway. Just ask any my chemistry kids, they'll tell, or physics, they'll tell you the same thing. Okay, and then you're done for the day. You're done. Okay. All right. Love you. Go away. And next day, there should be in your package a chapter test, and we'll complete it, and you will send it in to me, and that will be your final assessment for this chapter. Okay. Hasta la vista, baby.